Hello there, welcome to Whiskey Lore, and it's time for another tasting video with me, Drew Hanish. And today, got a good one for you. This one really surprised me. This was one that I had a bottle of GLENGLASSAUGH batch 9, and that's a cask strength, and I basically traded it for cash, took the cash down, and bought a bottle of GLENGLASSAUGH Torfa. Torfa means peat. And so you're going to learn right now about the fact that this is a peaty whiskey, and don't be afraid of it. This thing is fascinating. Okay, so first off, before we jump into this, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel if you are enjoying the videos. And also, I want to send a shout out to a legend in the Whiskey Lore Society community. Legend because he is level 3, which means that he is getting all sorts of Whiskey Lore merch for being a member of the Whiskey Lore Society on Patreon, and that is Lucifer666. And if you feel like you need to put some Iron Maiden on right now, do it. No, wait for the video. We'll do the video first. I'm wearing the black tie in honor of Lucifer666, and then I'm doing a Smoky whiskey in this episode. All right, anyway, there you go, and on we go with the tasting notes and talking about this fascinating whiskey, which is a Highland single malt. It comes from very close to the Speyside area, Speyside region. It's north of Elgin, and Speyside is south of Elgin. So this isn't on the Spey River, which is where that gets its name from. It's actually on the Glassaugh Burn, and we talked about it in my episode, my interview with Rory Glasgow of Brown-Forman, who talked about GLENGLASSAUGH and Ben Riach in the same episode. And we talked about the difference between Ben and Glen, Ben being hill or mountain, and Glen meaning a valley. And a strath is actually a wide valley, whereas it's a more narrow valley for a glen. So when you see glens on whiskey, don't think that that's telling you anything about the quality of the whiskey. It's just painting a picture for you. And that's what's so cool about Scotch whiskey, is that you can actually read the name of the distillery, and it will give you a visual as to what the area looks like. So this is a little valley with the Glassaugh Burn, which is a Scottish word for basically a creek or a stream. So Torfa is a Norse word meaning peat. And you'll find, especially over in Islay, a lot of use of Norse language because of the invaders coming in and mingling in with the culture. Well, this is on the North Sea, so they had their share of invaders coming in through that area as well. For you American whiskey fans, this is aged in a bourbon barrel, and it is 50% alcohol, which is just like bottled in bond. However, this does not have an age statement on it, but so that's one difference. And if you're a bourbon drinker, this isn't going to remind you of bourbon really almost at all. I mean, the caramel will definitely stand out to you, but everything else probably will be much different. So don't drink this expecting that it's going to taste like a bourbon. It's just that bourbon cask has added some of that caramel. You'll see me switch back and forth between those two pronunciations. I'm from Michigan originally. We say caramel. I moved down south, everybody says caramel. It sounded weird to me, but I've slowly started to get used to it. This whiskey really surprised me because I didn't know what to expect out of GLENGLASSAUGH. It's a distillery I hadn't had anything from. There's a guy in American whiskey, you'll hear about Dave Pickerell. Dave Pickerell was a consultant. He had started working with Maker's Mark, Whistle Pig, and then he's like helped a bunch of distilleries. Passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. In Scotland, maybe an equivalent, but not exactly, would be Billy Walker, because Billy Walker now owns GlenAllachie, but before that he owned Benriach and Glenglassagh and Glendronach, and then he sold them to Brown-Forman, and he used the money to go buy GlenAllachie. So what he would do is he would go from distillery to distillery, and he was the fixer. He was the guy that brought the distilleries up to snuff and then moved on. Well, he did more than bring them up to snuff, because every one of those distilleries that I just mentioned make fantastic whiskey. So this guy is a legend, and amazing work that he has done. And now Dr. Rachel Berry has taken over, and she has a background of working with Ardbeg. She was behind Corey Vrecken and Ugadal, and she was also at Glenmorangie, and she did some work there as well. So she's got a great background, and we'll talk about when we get to Benriach, but she has really made a difference in what they are producing there, and you can taste in Benriach, and again, I'll talk about that then, the difference between what she's done and the stuff that was done before her. So Glenglassaugh, this is a distillery. It's been open and shut a lot. It, curiously enough, was once shut down because its whiskeys were too complex. And the reason that was a problem was because they were trying to use them in blends. And if something is, you're trying to find a delicate balance there, and you know, blenders don't need something that is going off in many different directions. And this was tending to do that. So that's part of the reason it got shut down there for a while. So glad it's back up. I can't wait to go actually visit this place. I've been by it and saw it from the road, but have not had a chance to actually go tour it. So one thing you'll notice is the dark color on this. This is actually, I would say that's as dark as Johnny Walker, maybe edging a little darker. Johnny Walker is supposed to be the perfect color for a whiskey, and so when they add colorant, they usually try to match that color. Monkey Shoulder, a lot of these other blended whiskeys will have color added to get them to that color. This one gets there in a bourbon cask, and I have no idea how, because usually Scotch whiskeys in a used bourbon cask are not going to be this dark, but this one is, and maybe it's the higher proof that's doing it. I'm not exactly sure, but it says no colorant added and no chill filtering on this. So on the nose, this is salty, bacon, caramel, call it toffee. There's a grain note in there, and a slight bit of smoke, but not a lot of smoke. And this is a different kind of smoke, and I'll talk about once we get through actually what happens on the palate. That is such a beautiful whiskey when it hits the palate. You don't want to let it go. The other thing about Glenglassagh that blenders didn't like is it's really heavy. This, that smoke comes through on the end. Let's talk about it. And there's a little Snickers bar going on in there, because there's some peanut chocolate coming in. But it's mostly salted caramel with this smoke that is more of like a meaty smoke, like a pork barbecue kind of a smoke. And then it just stays so rich on the tongue. I mean, it does not, this is such a long finish on this whiskey, and it goes really into a foresty kind of smoke. Oh, there's that little bit of chocolate coming in. It's really, really, really wonderful. It is, I hear people say campfire, I get it. I understand. I'll hear people apply that to medicinal whiskeys like Ardbeg. This is not like Ardbeg. Ardbeg is an ashy smoke. It has some of those medicinal iodine qualities to it. This does not have any of that. This is truly, to me, oh man, that caramel just lays on the tongue. It is so, so nice. And the smoke is kind of dissipated now. Sorry, my ADD is kicking in big time with this one because there's so many wonderful things going on with this whiskey that, you know, from start to finish, it really plays that salted caramel flavor from beginning to end. And it just, the body of this whiskey is so nice. I told Rory, because he said when we were doing the Glendronach interview, you know, he said, when, you know, Glenglassaugh, I think you'll be surprised by how good those whiskeys are. And so he said, but maybe you should get Revival or Evolution. Well, I saw peated, and I said, I got to get the peated version and see what it's like. And I told him during the interview, I said, this is about what happened after maybe a week and a half of having this bottle. And I tend to go around my bottles. I don't tend to drink the same whiskey twice. I just kind of work through the collection. And this one I couldn't stop drinking. It just, I'm sorry, it hits every single note that I love in one dram. So if you're not into salted caramel, if you don't like smoky barbecue, this may not be for you. But honestly, for me, that chocolate, little bit of cocoa leaving on the end, this is truly like going out camping and having your s'mores and just really, it's just soaking all of that into one dram. So I know I've built this up so big, and you're going to go taste it and you're going to go, wait. Because sometimes when you oversell something, and I'm not selling you, I'm just telling you, this is one of my favorite whiskeys, and it proves to me that age statements really don't matter. If you love an oaky character, then maybe age statements are going to play in. If you want a whiskey that the new make has been strangled until all of its personality has been mellowed out into something you can just gulp down, then maybe you're into longer age statements. But for me, I like the personality of that new make, and when it's done right, and if you can balance it with the oak, that's my sweet spot. That's where I like to be, and I think this one really hits on all cylinders. So hope you guys get a chance to taste this at some point, and as I understand it, it may be going through some cycles where it'll be a little harder to get this particular expression, but all the Glenglassaughs I've had, and we'll do a tasting on the other ones as well, have been really nice, heavy, meaty whiskeys. So hope you enjoyed this I'm so used to interview. Hope you enjoyed this this tasting, and if you did, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you on the next go around. Until next time, cheers and Slanjava. Oh.